Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. I am Evil Mike, and this is going to be my review on The Dark Knights of Steel by DC. It's going to be it's 1 out of 12 issues, first issue. Let's get into the who's, why's, what's the good stuff. It's written by Tom Taylor, arts and colored by Yasmine Putri, letters by Wes Abbot. Uh, It was actually a pretty simple comic. I actually really loved it. I digged it. The art is fantastic. The story setup is actually really interesting, and it's pretty simple in a nutshell. Um, it's kind of the play on the origin stories that we know, following some of the superheroes they show, but of course Superman and Batman in particular. With Superman, Krypton dying. His parents sending the shuttle to Earth and him crash landing on Earth. But in this kind of what if scenario, it is, Krypton got destroyed. The parents got in the ship and crash landed on Earth, and it being in the medieval times. The second their shuttle opens, they are being attacked upon by, it looks like just a war party that is out wherever they crash landed in these medieval times. But you know, I, I, and I'm not a huge, but basically Superman's mom and dad, she is pregnant with Clark, and when they crash land and end up having the baby, right as they crash land, as they are doing so, the war party attacks Jor-El and his mom, and Jor-El, first realizing that they have powers from the orange sun and not dampened by the red sun, and he unleashes like his laser eye beams out of rage, trying to prevent the guy. He's asking the war party not to attack and this and that, that they're not, that they're not a threat or something like that, and that they end up, attacking anyways. And in his rage, it just kind of comes out, and he obliterates the whole like war party. At the same time, while Clark Kent is being born. Excuse me. They flash forward and they do show what looks like Camelot. In my honest opinion, that's actually what it looks like in Britannia. The way it's set up on a hill, which lead me to believe that yeah, and they kind of flash forward because it's supposed to be in the Kingdom of Storms. They do jump forward, and it takes place in like outside village in the castle, and they're in a hut, and we are with John Constantine and somebody else that is with Constantine, and he is basically like he's being riddled, and his body is like in kind of a, looks like he's like convulsing and stuff like that, but really he's casting a prophecy out, and he's stating a prophecy, and there's a like a scribe, and there is a king with him. Now the king, in my honest opinion, it looks like Black Thunder, like the character that's playing the king, but we don't know really who or what is going on in this scenario, because Constantine gives this prophecy, they write it down, the king makes note of it, and then they kind of flip back over to our main characters, and it just focuses on, Bruce and Clark Kent, and you do find out that Bruce, just like their origin story was kind of mixed up. Of course, this being medieval times, same thing. Bruce's parents were killed, and now Bruce has been taken in by not just Alfred, because Alfred is there too, but by Jor-El and his mom and Clark. They are a part of the Kent family now. Of course, in this, it's not the Kents, it's the L's. But he is one of the knights, that serve, Jor-El and I don't remember Kal-El's mom, but and I'm bad with names, so don't, and I'm not a huge super fan either. And I like Superman, but not where I remember every detail about Superman, so I apologize. But anyways, it states out where like they kind of introduce Superman, and you know he's a young prince, and they show Bruce Wayne, and he's another young prince in the House of El, and they basically stated where Batman is about to leave for a mission, and Clark keeps stating, why are you going, and then he wants to go with him, but at the same time Batman's like, oh, you're the prince and you're susceptible to only one thing, and they kind of set up the magic part in this realm, and that's what the elves are susceptible, is just the magic side of it, which we know Superman is to begin with. So they jump forward, and you find out that they are like that Batman is out to there's supposedly a leak of like a magic assassin that is on his way to the El Castle. One second. Sorry. And and Batman has been tasked to track down the magical assassin before it gets to the House of El, and that's what he's hopping on his horse and going to do. Clark kind of makes a statement about like, well, you know, even though I'm susceptible to magic, he was like, well, you're not, you know, I mean, you're still affected by magic just like me. And Batman's like, yeah, but you know, this is kind of my job. I'm here to protect you, kind of thing. Even though in the book it's not stated, and he's supposed to be like, you know, supposedly a brother. They do show, they do jump to a nighttime scene where Batman is at another village, fort. It just says Feist Village, and he has his Robins, and we actually get to see like Signal. It looks like Dick. It looks like Damian and Stephanie Brown. I'm not sure if that's exactly the Robins they show up, but based on what their appearance and everything, definitely Signal and Stephanie Brown. The other two, it could be a mix of Jason Todd, and they don't go into any names. They just state Robins. But he does have his Robins, and they're like kind of like a secret team of rogues that works for Batman, kind of like his squires or something like that. And they basically just infiltrate this little town, find out where this magical assassin is, and we find out that it's Banshee. It's this version of Black Canary, Diana. And she's supposed to be asleep in a house by herself, and she's like magically locked up supposedly. Batman infiltrates the house. She even makes a statement like, it was all locked up, you know, magically. How did you even get in here? And Batman just makes a statement like, you know who I am, you know what I do, kind of thing. Like right after he, you know, kind of states this, well, she's like, you messed up, you know, and she unleashes like her Black Canary scream, you know, and this it'd be the Banshee scream, I guess, in this world. And it decimates everything around Batman, and for some reason Batman's still standing there. He's affected by it. All of a sudden he's got blood coming out of his ears and his nose, but I mean everything else, the cottage and that was in front of that scream is just obliterated, and Batman is not. Banshee even makes a like kind of you know, surprised you know, saying that, you know, how is it that you're still alive, kind of thing, and Batman does not even know because he looks around him and everything should be dead. She even gets him closer, and while Batman is stunned, she grabs him and screams in his face, and still everything around him, like the ground, and it pretty much gets torn up, but Batman is still there. Quickly Clark shows up, and within instance he is already like covering her mouth and has her secure. Kind of like, you know, putting it in Batman's face, like, man, I should have came, blah, blah, and Batman's like, I had it handled, you know, I mean, and they do make it back to the castle, and there's a conversation between, you know, Clark and Bruce about him having, like, magical abilities or something like that, but they kind of, like, brush it off. They jump back over to the castle, like as they are walking in with Banshee, and we are greeted by another character that we all know and love, but that's Harley Quinn, and she plays the King's and Queen's court jester, a fitting, you know, position. But and there's not much to Harley Quinn. She just right now she is that bubbly like court jester, and she just kind of greets Superman and Batman as they arrive home with their captured assassin. They do stop and talk to the King and Queen, and Batman kind of goes back to the, hey, you know, was there something else to my parents? You know, it could be, you know, magical, like how come I was able to withstand this Banshee blast kind of thing. They kind of nonchalant going around it, you know, just stating that Bruce is their child, you know, and he doesn't need to be doing the things he does to, you know, like show the parents that he's of value or something like that, because they see him as his son, kind of thing. Let's see. They do. They kind of like jump to this, like Bruce goes outside and he has a conversation with the king, going further into the magic thing, and his, you know, and the king trying to accept, you know, get Bruce to accept that they see him as a son, kind of thing. And Bruce, like, he just has this idea that there's something more to the magic and he might be a demon, kind of thing. I mean, if I had to guess, I get kind of the theory that that maybe Estragon or something is tied to that, specifically Merlin, you know. They do jump over and like, you know, with Batman and the King, there's one last thing that's kind of said, and Batman kind of states about the magical assassin, that now that Banshee is captured, they're all safe and sound, and Batman, you know, makes the statement like maybe that wasn't the magical assassin, maybe someone just led them to believe that. She wasn't showing any signs that she was magic besides her scream. So they kind of like, you know, they off-put it or whatever, and as soon as they do that, they scroll over to another scene, and we catch up with Oliver Queen, aka Green Arrow, and he's hanging out to a tree, and he is talking to someone, and we find out it looks a lot like Green Lantern. They don't ever show Green Lantern, but they show his hand and his ring, which does happen to be green, and he powers up one of Green Arrow's arrows. It looks like the arrow has a kryptonite head, and it looks like you know, Green Lantern is kind of infusing it with his willpower, per se. He does mention to Oliver Queen that he doesn't have to worry about his skill per se, because the magic will take care of the rest. And basically Oliver cocks back his bow, fires it, and sure enough the arrow goes off. And as Batman and you know, Jor-El are talking outside on like some rampart or something, one of the most brutal scenes happens in the comic. Jor-El is literally shot through the eye with the arrow I mean, Green Arrow shot. You know, we don't know if that was where it was intended. I'm pretty sure it was, especially with him talking about the use of magic and this and that. But that's the last we show us, is it looks like the iconic scene with Batman holding his parents, kind of thing, and Batman sitting there in kind of like in the rain holding Jor-El after he just died. Okay, so my final thoughts. I love this issue. First off, I'm a Medieval fan. You already know I'm a DC fan, so, but unbiased opinion, it was actually really good. The art, like I said in the beginning, is fantastic. It's stellar. I did like the introduction of characters that we got. I would like to see some more characters from the DC Universe, because there's some ones that I could really see fitting into this comic. But for a first issue, it wasn't bad, and there's enough of a cliffhanger to keep me going, enough of the right questions to want to get me interested, kind of thing. But these are my honest thoughts. I have a lot more coming. I have already read a lot more of this week's comics, and I will be pumping them out as soon as I can get the reviews done. Alright guys, bah!